In my ordinary life, I never imagined that betrayal would tear my reality apart so brutally. One day, I accidentally discovered a video on my daughter's iPad, revealing my wife Rebecca embracing another man passionately. This blow almost shattered me, but it was just the tip of the iceberg. As I delved deeper, I uncovered more secrets of Rebecca and her lover Dylan, including their plan to poison me. In this war of marriage and family, I had to fight for my daughter Lily, expose their conspiracy, and protect our happiness. Welcome to the Love and Betrayed Love channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. I stared at the computer screen, the blueprints lines blurred in front of my eyes. Another long day at the office was coming to an end. I rubbed my temples, feeling the familiar ache of eye strain. Settling. With a few more changes to this design, I could return home to Rebecca and Lily. My phone broke. Rebecca sent a text, "Working late again. Do not wait." I frowned. It was the third time this week that something seemed off, but I put the thought aside. I had a family to support after all. As I packed up my belongings, my gaze was drawn to Lily's iPad in the corner of my desk. She must have left it here. When she went to the office earlier, I picked it up and planned to bring it home to her. As I moved it, the screen lit up and revealed the camera roll. My finger was hovering over the power button when a thumbnail caught my attention. It was Rebecca, but something was off. When I tapped the video, my world was shattered. There she was, my wife for 15 years, locked in a passionate embrace with another man. They were sitting on the couch in our living room, where we had spent many family movie nights together. I felt ball rise in my throat, bringing him closer. "Oh, Dylan," she groaned. I had been waiting for this all day. The video ended abruptly, but the damage had been done. My hands shook as I put the iPad down. Lily must have accidentally recorded the betrayal. My sweet, innocent daughter has unknowingly captured the destruction of our family. I closed my eyes and tried to calm my breathing. Rage boiled within me, threatening to explode, but I couldn't allow it. Not yet. I had to think and plan. Rebecca had no idea. I knew it gave me an advantage. The drive home was a blur. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white by the time I arrived at our driveway. I had made up my mind I'd confront it tonight, but I needed to remain calm. I needed answers. I was in the kitchen where I entered, humming to herself while chopping vegetables for dinner. The sight of her so casual and normal made my stomach turn. "Hey honey," she said, without looking up. "How was it at work?" I placed Louie's iPad on the countertop. "Fine." Lily left this in the office. Rebecca glanced at it before returning to her shopping. "Okay. Good. She's been searching for that." I watched her for a moment, looking for any indication of guilt, any resemblance to the woman I saw in that video. There was nothing. "Rebecca," I spoke steadily, "we need to talk." She sat down, the knife finally meeting my gaze. "What is wrong?" "Alex, you seem upset." I took a deep breath. I watched the video. "Rebecca, I know about Dylan." For a split second, I saw panic on her face. She then laughed, which shocked me. The cold, mocking sound sent shivers down my spine. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "It's not a big deal. Our daughter should learn about her new father someday." The casualness of her response and her complete lack of remorse struck me like a physical blow. I stared at her, a stranger with my wife's face. "Not a big deal." I repeated, my voice low and threatening. "You're destroying our marriage and family." With little consequence, Rebecca rolled her eyes. "Come on, Alex, don't be overly dramatic. These things occur. Dylan can give me things. You cannot. It's that simple." I could feel my control slipping. "And how about Lily? Did you think about her at all?" "Lily will be fine," Rebecca replied, returning her attention to her vegetables. "Children are resilient. Furthermore, Dylan has more than enough money to provide her with a comfortable lifestyle. I clenched my fists, resisting the urge to strike out. You talk about our daughter as if she were a piece of furniture. You can simply move to a new house. Rebecca slammed the knife down and glared at me. What would you like me to say, Ethan? That I'm sorry. I'm not. Dylan makes me happy. I'm happier than I have been in years. If you can't handle it, that's your problem. I took a step back and saw Rebecca for who she really was. My child's mother, the woman I loved, was no longer with us. In her place stood a cold and selfish stranger. This is not over. I said, my voice sighing. You will not get away with this. Rebecca laughed again. The sound was grating on my nerves. Oh, Ethan. Always so dramatic, face it. You've lost. The sooner you accept this, the easier things will be for everyone. I turned and left the kitchen. My mind raced. Rebecca may have thought she had won, but she had no idea what was going to happen. I would fight with everything I had for my daughter and my life, and I would ensure that Rebecca and her lover were held accountable for every moment of pain they caused. As I climbed the stairs to Lily's room, I suppressed my anger and pain. My daughter needed me to be strong to be her parent. Rebecca obviously couldn't be. I smiled as I knocked on her door. Hello, sweetie, I said, poking my head inside. I've brought your iPad home. Lily looked up from her homework, her face brightening. Thank you, Dad. I look for that everywhere. I handed her the device. My heart aches. She was unaware of the storm that was about to strike our family. I vowed then and there to protect her at all costs. Dad, Lily's voice interrupted my thoughts. Are you okay? You appear sad. I forced myself to smile wider. I'm fine, honey. Just had a long day at work. How about a movie night this weekend? It's just the two of us. Lily nodded eagerly, and I felt a small spark of warmth in the chill that had settled over me. I would do anything to keep that smile on her face. As I left her room, I heard Rebecca's phone ring downstairs. Her hushed, excited voice carried up the stairs. She was talking to him, Dylan, about their next move. There's no doubt that two people could play that game. I returned to my home office and locked the door behind me. It was time to plan my own strategy. I opened my laptop, my fingers flying over the keys. As I looked for the best divorce attorneys in the area, a single name kept coming up. Evelyn Harris is known for her aggressive tactics and unbeatable record. As I dialed her office number, she seemed like the perfect person for the task. I looked at the family photograph on my desk. Rebecca, Lily, and I were all smiles. During our last vacation, the sight of it caused my chest to tighten. I turned the framed face down. That life was over. Now it was time for war. The next morning I awoke early. My mind is already racing with plans. Rebecca was still sleeping. I had no idea what storm I was about to unleash. I dressed quietly and left the house before she and Lily awoke. Harrison Associate. Its offices were sleek and modern, a far cry from the stuffy law firms I dealt with during my architectural career. Evelyn Harris was equally impressive. A sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, exudes barely contained energy. Mr. Hoffman, she said, came for me to sit. I understand you are in need of my services. I nodded and took a seat across from her desk. I am. My wife is having an affair, and I need to ensure that I do not lose everything. During the divorce, Evelyn's eyes glowed with interest. Tell me everything for the next hour. I told the entire sordid story of the video. Rebecca coldly dismissed our marriage. Her plans involved Dylan. Evelyn listened intently, occasionally taking notes. Well, Mr. Hoffman, she said after I finished, you've got a fight on your hands, but I believe we can win it. I leaned forwards, how Evelyn smiled with a predatory gleam in her eyes. We'll hit them where it hurts their reputation, their finances, and their future. They'll wish they hadn't crossed paths with you by the end. Her words sparked a thrill through me. This was just what I needed. Someone who recognized that this was more than just ending a marriage. It was about justice. "What is our first move?" I asked. Evelyn stated that she had information. "We need to know everything about Rebecca and this Dylan character. Their finances, past and dirty little secrets. I work with a private investigator. He's the best in the industry." I nodded. "Do it whatever the cost." Evelyn picked up the phone. "Ethan, I have a job for you." As she talked with the investigator, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't doing this alone anymore. I had a team, a plan. Rebecca and Dylan would not know what hit them. The following few weeks were a blur of covert meetings and phone calls. At home, I played the clueless husband while preparing my case against Rebecca and Dylan. Ethan, the private investigator, was worth every penny. He discovered a wealth of information about Dylan Reed, painting a picture of a man with a dark past and an even darker present. "Your wife's boyfriend is heavily involved in organized crime," Ethan told me at one of our meetings. "Money laundering, extortion, you name it. He has his fingers in a lot of dirty pies." I felt a combination of disgust and triumph. "Can we prove it?" Ethan nodded and slid a file across the table. "It's all here, bank records, witness statements, and even incriminating photographs. Your wife chose a real winner." I flipped through the file, my thoughts racing. This was exactly what I needed to make sure Rebecca didn't take custody of Lily. No judge would hand over a child to someone involved in a criminal case. As the days passed, I noticed something strange. I was feeling increasingly tired and nauseous. At first, I attributed it to stress. However, as the symptoms worsened, a terrifying thought occurred to me: was Rebecca poisoning me? Even though the idea seemed paranoid to me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. I needed help, someone I could completely trust. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had not used in years. "Nathan, it's Ethan. I need your help." Nathan Harris had been my college roommate before being recruited for intelligence work. We kept in touch occasionally over the years, and I knew if anyone could help me, it was him. We met at a quiet bar on the outskirts of town. Nathan appeared older than I remembered, his hair graying at the temples, but his eyes remained sharp. "As ever, you look like hell, Ethan," he said in greeting. I managed a weak smile. "Thanks, I feel worse." I expressed my suspicions as Nathan's expression darkened. "You're right to be concerned," he said after I finished. "The symptoms you've described are consistent with low D2 poisoning. We need to get you tested right away." The next few days were a blur of secret medical tests and whispered conversations. The results confirmed our worst fears. I was being poisoned slowly but surely. "It's clever," Nathan said, reviewing the test results. "The dosages are so small that they could be mistaken for a natural illness. If we hadn't caught it, you would have died within months." I felt a cold rage come over me. Rebecca wasn't simply trying to leave me. She attempted to kill me. "What do we do?" I asked. His eyes gleamed. "We turn the tables. You're going to act sick. Make her believe her plan is working. Meanwhile, we'll collect evidence and build our case." I nodded. "My mind is forming a plan, and when the moment is right, we strike exactly." Nathan claims she won't know what hit her. I drove home that night. I experienced a renewed sense of purpose. Rebecca thought she was so clever and untouchable, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. I'd take everything from her, just as she'd attempted to take everything from me. I drove into the driveway, bracing myself for another evening of pretending. As I entered the house, I overheard Rebecca on the phone in the kitchen. It works perfectly. She was speaking softly and excitedly. "He's getting sicker by the day. Soon we'll have everything we want." I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to confront her right there. But no, I needed to be patient. The time would come and Rebecca would be sorry she had underestimated me. I took a deep breath and entered the kitchen, putting on a tired smile. Hello, hello. Honey? At home? Rebecca put on a fake worried expression. Oh, Garrett, you look terrible. Why don't you go lie down? I will bring you some tea. I nodded, weakly playing my role. Thanks. I believe I will. As I climbed the stairs, I gave myself a small smile. Rebecca, enjoy your victory while you can. The real battle has just begun. The weeks passed and each day was a delicate balance of gathering evidence, while maintaining my illness facade. Rebecca played the role of concerned wife to perfection, all while gradually poisoning me. The irony was not lost on me. But today everything would change. Today we struck back. I sat in Evelyn's office watching her make the final preparations. The divorce papers were on her desk, along with thick files of evidence against Rebecca and Dylan. Are you prepared for this, Alex? Evelyn asked. Her eyes were shut. I nodded, satisfied and ready. Let us conclude this. Evelyn picked up the phone. Sending it. Moments later, the courier entered and took the documents. I watched him leave, knowing he was about to turn Rebecca's life upside down. Now we're waiting. Evelyn spoke, leaning back in her chair. We did not have to wait long. My telephone rang. Less than an hour past Rebecca. His name flashed across the screen. I responded, keeping my voice weak and tired. Hello. What the hell is this? Ethan, Rebecca. His voice was shrill from panic. Divorce papers are evidence of an affair. Attempted murder. Have you lost your mind? I dropped the act, my voice becoming cold. No, Rebecca. I finally come to my senses. Did you truly believe you could get away with it? The affair, the poisoning, all of it. There was a long pause before Rebecca spoke again. Her voice was low and threatening. You have no idea what you have done. Ethan, Dylan and I, we are not the people you want to cross. I laughed. The sound was harsh even to my own ears. No, Rebecca. You're the ones who don't realize what you've done. This is only the beginning. When I'm finished, you'll have nothing left. I hung up my hand, shaking slightly. It was finished. The first shot of awry had been fired. Evelyn raised her eyebrow, feeling better. I nodded. A weight lifted from my shoulders. You've no idea. The next few days were a blur of legal maneuvers and counter-maneuvers. Rebecca and Dylan fought hard, but we were prepared for them. Dylan attempted to blackmail me, claiming to have evidence of corporate espionage. But thanks to Miles's thorough investigation, we were ready. Nice try, Dylan. I said this during a tense meeting, but we're both aware that evidence is as phony as your business dealings. Speaking of which, how's that offshore account doing, the one stuffed with London cash? Dylan's face lost its color. How did you do it? I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. I know everything. Dylan, every dirty deal and illegal transaction. You really should have looked into me before attempting to steal my wife and ruin my life. Dylan stormed out, but I knew things weren't over. They were cornered animals, now dangerous and unpredictable. Lily returned home from school one day, her eyes red from crying. Proving me correct. Daddy, she said, her voice soft. Mom said you had been hurting her, that you were dangerous. Is this true? My heart was broken by the fear in her eyes. I knelt down and took her small hands in mine. No, sweetheart, this is not true. Your mom, she's not doing well right now. She's telling lies because she's scared and angry. Lily nodded, but I could see it out in her eyes. Rebecca was poisoning our daughter against me, using her as a weapon in our conflict. I called Nathan immediately. We need to put an end to this. Nathan agreed. I have an idea, but it is risky. The plan was simple but effective. Nathan would install hidden cameras and microphones throughout our home, focusing on the areas where Rebecca spent the most time with Lily. We'd catch her manipulating our daughter, providing undeniable proof of her true nature. Are you ready for this? Nathan inquired as he finished setting up the final camera. Things are going to get crazy. I nodded firmly. Rebecca crossed the line by involving Lily. I refused to let her poison our daughter's mind over the next few days. I watched and listened as Rebecca spun a web of lies. It was sickening to hear her twist the facts to our innocent child. I've been painted as a monster. Remember what we were talking about, sweetie. Rebecca said to Lily one evening. If someone asks, especially at school, you tell them that Daddy hurt you. It's important. Lily's voice was low and confused, but Daddy never hurt me. I know it's difficult to understand. Rebecca said, her voice tinged with false sympathy. However, adults do make bad decisions on occasion. We need to ensure that Daddy does not harm anyone else. I clenched my fist. I'm boiling with rage inside, but I forced myself to remain calm. We needed this evidence. After a week of recording, we finally had everything we needed. I met with Evelyn to go over the footage. Alex, this is gold. Evelyn replied, her eyes gleaming, seeming as she watched the videos. With this, we can demonstrate parental alienation. Rebecca won't have a chance in court. I leaned back with a smile on my face. Good. It's time to put an end to this. The following day, we filed for an emergency custody hearing. Rebecca was completely caught off guard. Evelyn's smug confidence crumbled as she presented our evidence to the judge. Your Honor, Evelyn spoke, her voice resonating throughout the courtroom. What you're about to see is clear evidence of Mrs. Grant's attempt to separate her daughter from her father through manipulation and deception. As the videos played, I noticed Rebecca's expression. She paled, then flushed with rage. Her gaze darted around the room, eventually settling on me with a look of pure hatred. The judge's expression became increasingly stern as he watched. When the final video ended, he turned to Rebecca. Mrs. Grant, do you have anything to say in your defense? Rebecca stammered, her UAL composure completely broken. I was simply trying to protect my daughter. Alex, that is enough. The judge cut her off. Based on this evidence, I'm granting Mr. Grant temporary full custody pending a full hearing. Mrs. Grant, you will only have supervised visitation. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was not over yet, but it was a significant victory. As we exited the courtroom, Rebecca grabbed my arm and dug her nails into my skin. She hissed, "This is not over. Ethan, you have no idea what is coming." I shook her off and met her gaze steadily. "Bring it on, Rebecca. I'm prepared for whatever you and your criminal boyfriend can throw at me." I walked away, leading her fuming in the corner. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time in months, I felt like I was winning. The courtroom was tense. As Evelyn presented our case, I sat at the plaintiff's table, my face calm and determined. Rebecca glared at me from across the aisle and Dylan whispered urgently to their lawyer. "Your Honor," Evelyn began speaking clearly and confidently. "What we have here is an obvious case of infidelity, attempted murder and child manipulation. Mr. Grant has been the victim of a deliberate plot to end not only his marriage but also his life and separate him from his daughter." She then proceeded to lay out our evidence piece by piece, including the video of Rebecca's affair, medical records proving the poisoning attempt. The recordings show Rebecca manipulating Lily. With each new revelation, when it came time for Rebecca to testify, I could see the color drain from her face. She attempted to play the victim. "My Honor, I was trapped in a loveless marriage. Ethan was cold and distant. I only wanted the best for Lily." "Mrs. Grant," the judge interrupted with his voice stern, "are you saying that attempting to poison your husband was the best option for your daughter?" Rebecca faltered, her carefully crafted facade crumbling. "No, that is not true." "He's lying about that," the judge reminded Mrs. Grant. "We have medical evidence." "Do you accuse the hospital of lying?" as well as Rebecca floundered. I caught Dylan's eye. He was watching the proceedings with increasing concern, no doubt realizing that his carefully planned strategies were unraveling. During a break, I overheard Dylan speaking to a man I did not recognize. "Find anything on Grant?" Dylan let out a growl. "I don't mind what it takes. We need to discredit him." I smirked at myself. Allow them to try. My records were clean and Evelyn had planned for every possible attack. Sure enough, the next day, Dylan's lawyer presented a series of documents purportedly proving my involvement in corporate espionage. "Your Honor," the lawyer said with a smile, "these documents clearly show that Mr. Grant engaged in illegal business practices. He's hardly qualified to be a father." Lord remained calm and collected, "Your Honor. We expected a desperate attempt at character assassination. If you look at the documents we submitted, you'll notice that Mr. Grant's business dealings have been thoroughly audited and found to be completely ethical. Furthermore, we have evidence that Mr. Reed is engaged in money laundering and other illegal activities." The judge reviewed both sets of documents. His frown deepened as he read about Mr. Reed. He said, "Finally, I've referred these allegations to the district attorney's office for investigation. The accusations against Mr. Grant appear to be baseless and possibly fabricated. I am warning you now. Any further attempts to mislead this court will have serious consequences." I could see Dylan's face turned red with rage and fear. Good. Let him squirm. The next blow came when Rebecca attempted to play her last card. Millie was called to testify and I could see my daughter's fear and confusion in her eyes, which broke my heart. "Lily, sweetie," Rebecca's lawyer said gently, "can you tell us if your father has ever hurt you?" Lily looked at me and then at Rebecca, clearly torn. I held my breath, praying that the truth would prevail. "Mommy told me to say, Daddy hurt me." Lily spoke finally, her voice small but clear. "Yet he never did. Mommy said it was necessary to lie, but I don't want to lie anymore." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Rebecca looked like she had been slapped and Dylan buried his face in his hands. "Order," the judge called, banging his gavel. "Mrs. Grant, this is a serious allegation. Suborning perjury by a minor is a criminal offense." Evelyn leaned over to me while Rebecca stammered out denials. "We have them on the ropes," she whispered. "But brace yourself. They're going to become desperate now." I nodded. "Let them come. I am ready." The final surprise of the day came when a woman I didn't recognize requested to address the court. After consulting with the lawyers, the judge approved it. "Your Honor," one was at the first, "my name is Grace Grant. I'm Rebecca's sister and I have information relevant to this case." Rebecca turned pale. Grace did not dare. Grace ignored her sister. Her face was set with determination. "I've known Rebecca all my life and what you've witnessed here is nothing new. She's always been manipulative, prioritizing her own desires over everyone else's. She cheated on every boyfriend she had, including Ethan. I've kept quiet for years, but I can't stand by and watch her destroy this family anymore." Grace's testimony detailing years of Rebecca's lies and manipulations left me feeling both vindicated and saddened. How had I missed this side of Rebecca for so long when court was done for the day? I approached Grace in the hallway. "Thank you," I replied simply. "I know it couldn't have been easy." Grace gave me a sad smile. "It wasn't, but it was correct. I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner, Ethan. Perhaps I could have prevented some of this." I shake my head. "You're here now. That is what matters." As we walked out of the courthouse, I noticed Rebecca and Dylan having a heated discussion with their lawyer. They appeared panicked and desperate. Good. They had finally realized that their house of cards was collapsing. Evelyn fell into step with me. "We made significant progress today, but do not let your guard down. They've been cornered, making them even more dangerous than before." I nodded. "I understand. but whatever they throw at us next, we'll be prepared. The next few days were a blur of legal maneuvers and counter-maneuvers. Rebecca and Dylan were becoming increasingly desperate, and I knew they would not give up without a fight. Evelyn called me into her office, which proved my point. "We have a problem," she stated without preamble. "I just received word that someone attempted to bribe Judge Matthews." I felt my blood turn cold. "Dylan," Evelyn nodded, "almost certain. But here's some good news." I expected something like this. We've been watching all of Dylan's communications. We not only have evidence of the bribery attempt, but we also caught him discussing it beforehand. I leaned back with a smile on my face. "So we got him. We have him," Evelyn confirmed. "I have already forwarded the evidence to the district attorney's office. Dylan Reed will have a lot more to worry about than just losing his custody case." My phone rang while we were discussing our next move. It was Nathan. "We have a situation," he said with a tense voice. "I've heard rumors about a hit being put out on you." I felt a shiver go down my spine. "Rebecca resembles it. She has contacted someone named Marcellus Muriel. He is bad news. Alex is a professional fixer who specializes in making problems disappear forever." I took a deep breath and forced myself to remain calm. "What do we do?" Nathan said he is currently implementing countermeasures, but you must be on high alert. Do not go anywhere alone. Change your routines and, for God's sake, keep an eye on your back. After I hung up, I told Evelyn about the new development. "Jesus and Alex," she breathed. "This is becoming serious. Perhaps we should consider police protection." I shook my head firmly. "No, we play this smartly. But we do not back down. Rebecca and Dylan want to play hardball." "Fine. Let's show them how to do it." Over the next week, I maintained a constant state of alertness. Nathan's team kept an eye on me and Lily as we continued to build our case. The assassination attempt occurred on Tuesday. I was leading the office. My thoughts are focused on the upcoming court date. I noticed a car following me. Years of Nathan's paranoid warnings kicked in and I took evasive action by calling him. "While driving, I have a tail." I replied tearly. "Black sedan. There are 2 occupants. I see them." Nathan replied calmly. "There's an alley on your right. Take it." I did what he said. My heart is pounding. As soon as I turned down the alley, I heard screeching tires behind me. "Now all it's Nathan," exclaimed heartbreak. I slammed on the brakes just as a van sped out of a side street, T-boning the car that had been following me. In seconds, Nathan and his team had surrounded the vehicle. "Weapons drawn, you okay?" Nathan inquired, appearing outside my window. I nodded. My hands were shaking slightly on the steering wheel. "Yeah. Thank you, Nathan." His expression was stern. "Do not thank me yet, this is far from over." He was correct. The failed assassination attempt made headlines, strengthening public opinion against Rebecca and Dylan. Evelyn used the incident to portray them as desperate criminals willing to do anything to get what they wanted. In an unexpected turn of events, a woman named Darcy Corva contacted you. She turned out to be Dylan's former wife and she had a story to tell. "Dylan is a monster," Darcy informed us. Her voice shook. "He has abused me physically and emotionally for years and he is involved in various activities." Previously, I was still afraid to speak up, but I can't stay silent any longer. Darcy's testimony was the last nail in Dylan's coffin. She provided details about his illegal activities that corroborated our existing evidence, painting a bleak picture of a man who built his empire on crime and cruelty. The final court date approached. I could see Rebecca and Dylan's relationship unraveling. They knew they had been defeated, but they were too proud and angry to give up the night preceding the hearing. I tucked Lily into bed, heartbroken at the toll this ordeal had taken on her daddy. She asked sleepily, "Will you and Mommy stop fighting soon?" I stroked her hair gently. "Quickly, sweetheart. I promise it will be over. Soon as I closed her door, I braced myself for what was to come. Tomorrow would be the last battle, and I was determined to win, not just for me but for Lily. She deserved to live a life free of manipulation and lies, and I'd go to any length to give her what she desired. The courthouse was a media circus. Reporters jostled for position, shouting questions. As we walked inside, I kept my head up, ignoring the noise around me inside. The tension was palpable. Rebecca and Dylan sat at their table, looking exhausted and defeated. Their lawyer was frantically shuffling papers, a desperate expression on his face. Evelyn leaned close to me. "Remember to remain calm. No matter what happens. We got this." I nodded. My jaw had set. "I'm ready." The judge entered and the room fell silent. "Before we begin," he said, his voice stern, "I want to be clear. I will not tolerate any further attempts to mislead or manipulate this court. Is this understood?" Both legal teams nodded their approval. "Very well. Miss Harris, you may call the first witness." Evelyn stood. "Your Honor," the plaintiff called Dylan Reed to the stand. Dylan's face went pale as he approached the witness box. Evelyn's questions were relentless, picking apart every lie and deception. "Mr. Reed," she said, her tone sharp, "can you explain the discrepancies in your financial records, particularly the large sums of money transferred to offshore accounts?" SDE Dylan squirmed. "That's just normal business operations. Normal business operations that are consistent with known money laundering patterns." Evelyn pressed. "Perhaps you could explain this to the IRS agents who were waiting outside," while Dylan fumbled for answers. Rebecca became increasingly agitated. As it was her turn on the stand, she tried one final desperate gambit. She said, "Your Honor," with tears in her eyes, "I admit I made mistakes, but everything I did was to keep my daughter safe from a control and an abusive man." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Grant, are you now saying that Mr. Grant was abusive, despite all evidence to the contrary, including your daughter's personal testimony?" Rebecca faltered. "He was abusive in other ways. Emotionally." "Your Honor," Evelyn interjected, "I'd like to present Exhibit C, a series of text messages between Mrs. Grant and Mr. Reed discussing their plans to take care for all he's worth." As Evelyn read out the damning messages, I saw Rebecca's face crumble. She realized it was over. The final blow came from an unexpected direction. Several of Dylan's former business associates, sensing which way the wind was blowing, came forward with their own accounts of his illegal dealings. One by one, they painted a picture of a man who had made his fortune through fraud, intimidation, and outright theft. In his closing statement, Dylan appeared to be facing the gallows. By the time the last witness stepped down, Rebecca and Dylan's lawyer made a half-hearted effort to salvage something from the wreckage. While my clients may have made some regrettable decisions, we must keep the child's best interests in mind. Lily needs both of her parents in her life. Evelyn stood up. Her eyes flashed. "Please allow me to address Your Honor. The well-being of Lily is precisely why Mr. Grant should be given full custody. Mrs. Grant has repeatedly demonstrated that she is willing to prioritize her own desires over her daughter's welfare. She manipulated Lily, trained her to lie, and exposed her to a dangerous criminal environment through her relationship with Mr. Reed." The judge nodded with his face grave. "I have heard enough. This court will take a brief recess while I make my decision." As we waited, I felt a strange calm come over me. Whatever happened next, I knew I'd done everything I could to protect Lily. When the judge returned, there was silence in the courtroom regarding Lily Grant's custody. He started, his voice firm. "This court rules in favor of Alex Grant. Mr. Grant is hereby granted full custody, with Mrs. Grant entitled to supervised visitation at his discretion." I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "We've won." The judge added, his tone becoming harsher. "Furthermore, based on the evidence presented of attempted murder, child manipulation, and various financial crimes. I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. Mr. Reed and Mrs. Grant are required to surrender their passports immediately and report to the bailiff for processing." Rebecca let out a strangled cry and Dylan slumped in his chair, defeated as the bailiffs moved to arrest them. Rebecca locked eyes with me for the last time. She hissed, "This is not over. Ethan, I will get you for this." I met her gaze steadily. "It's over. Rebecca, you lost. Take responsibility once in your life." Evelyn gave me a triumphant smile as they were led away. "We did it, Ethan. It is finally over." I nodded, feeling a weight lifted off my shoulders. "Thank you, Evelyn, for everything." However, our victory was short-lived. Nathan burst into the courtroom, his expression tense. "Ethan, we have a problem." Rebecca and Dylan gave the BFF the slip. "They are on the run." My jaw clenched. Of course they could not bear the consequences of their actions. "What do we do, Nathan?" His eyes shone. "We track them down. I have contacts who monitor all exit points from the city. They won't go far." And he was correct. Thanks to Nathan's network and an anonymous tip, which I suspected was from Nathan himself, Rebecca and Dylan were apprehended at the airport as they attempted to board a private jet to a non-extradition country. As I watched the news footage of their arrest, I felt no joy or vindication, only relief that it was finally over. Lily tugged on my hand and her eyes widening. "Daddy, what will happen to Mommy?" I knelt down and met her gaze. "Mommy did some bad stuff, sweetheart. She has to face the consequences right now. But I promise you will be fine." As I held my daughter close, I realized that while one chapter of our lives had ended, a new one had just begun. And this time I'd make certain it was filled with love, honesty, and the peace Lily deserved. The courtroom was alive with anticipation, as Rebecca and Dylan were led in, both looking haggard in their prison jumpsuits. The media frenzy surrounding their arrest and subsequent trials was intense, but nothing compared to the storm that was about to erupt. I sat in the gallery, Evelyn next to me, as the prosecutor stood to address the court. "Your Honor, the state intends to prove that Rebecca Grant and Dylan Reed engaged in a systematic campaign of fraud, attempted murder, and child exploitation. The evidence we will present will demonstrate beyond a doubt that these individuals pose a threat to society and must face the full consequences of their actions." As the trial progressed, witness after witness testified, each more damning than the previous one. Former employees of Dylan's company described years of financial manipulation and strong-arm tactics. Medical professionals confirmed the slow poisoning attempt on my life. Lily's therapist also testified to the psychological damage. Rebecca manipulation was the cause. During recess, Lord Law approached me. "Alex, the prosecution wants you to testify. Are you ready for it?" I nodded firmly. "Absolutely. It's time they heard the truth from me directly." Taking the stand, I looked out over the courtroom, my gaze briefly meeting Rebecca, where I had once seen the woman I loved. I only saw a stranger, cold and unrepentant Mr. Grant. The prosecutor started. "Can you tell the court when you discovered your wife's affair?" My voice remained steady as I recounted the day. I discovered a video on my daughter's iPad. It featured Rebecca kissing Dylan Reed in our living room. Lily had accidentally recorded it. So how did Mrs. Grant react when you confronted her? I clenched my jaw at the memory. She laughed, saying it wasn't a big deal and that Lily would learn about her new father someday. There was no remorse, explanation, or apology. The questioning continued, focusing on the poisoning attempt, Rebecca's manipulation of Lily, and the lengths they went to discredit me. As I stepped down from the witness stand, I maintained my composure and unwavering resolve. I caught Dylan's eye. He glanced away quickly, unable to meet my gaze. Good. Let him feel the consequences of his actions. Although the trial lasted several weeks, The outcome was never in doubt. When the jury returned with their decision, the courtroom fell silent on the charge of attempted murder. We find Rebecca Grant guilty of fraud and money laundering. We find Dylan Reed guilty. The litany of guilty verdicts continued, each adding another nail to the coffin of their former lives. As the judge prepared to pronounce the sentence, Rebecca stood up abruptly, her face contorted with rage. "This is a farce," she screamed. "Ethan set us up. He's the true criminal here. Mrs. Grant." The judge's gavel came down hard. "Control yourself or you will be held in contempt." Rebecca calmed down, glaring at me with pure hatred. I met her gaze calmly, unaffected by her outburst. The sentences when they arrived were harsh. Dylan faces multiple life sentences due to the size of his criminal empire. Rebecca was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. As they were led away, I felt no satisfaction or triumph, only profound relief that this chapter of my life had finally irrevocably ended. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed and shouted questions. I held up a hand to signal silence. "I only have this to say," I stated clearly. "Justice has been served. My current focus is on healing and providing a better future for my daughter." "Thank you." Evelyn faced me while we were driving home. "It's not over yet. You understand there will be appeals, civil lawsuits." I nodded. "I understand, but we're ready for them. Rebecca and Dylan underestimated me once. They will not make that mistake again." Later that evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at me. "Serious, Daddy? Are the bad people gone?" I stroked her hair gently. "Yes, sweetie. They cannot harm us anymore. It's just you and I now, and I promise to always keep you safe." As I closed her door, my phone vibrated with a text from Nathan. "Turn on the news now." Frowning, I turned on the television in my study. The breaking news banner drew my attention immediately. "Fix Hurt and the Stars arrested. Promises to name names." The anchor's voice filled the room. "Marcellus Maria, a notorious fixer, was arrested tonight. According to sources, Mario is already cooperating with authorities and has promised to reveal details about his illegal activities on behalf of a number of high-profile clients." I sat back with a smile on my face. Nathan's work, no doubt. The dominoes were beginning to fall, and who knew how far the ripples would reach. My telephone rang. Ethan was Grace, Rebecca's sister. She spoke hesitantly. "I saw the news. I know this may not be the appropriate time, but I was hoping we could talk about Lily." I paused, remembering how Grace had helped expose Rebecca's true nature. Could I trust her to be a part of Lily's life? "Okay," I said finally. "Come by. Tomorrow afternoon we will talk." As I hung up, I realized that while one battle had ended, new ones were just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, I felt prepared to face whatever lay ahead. Grace arrived the next day looking nervous but determined. "Ethan," she started as we sat in the living room. "I understand I have no right to ask, but I would like to be a part of Lily's life. She is my niece and I want to help her recover from all of this." I looked at her carefully. "Why should I trust you, Grace, after all that has happened?" Grace held my gaze steadily. "Because I am not Rebecca. I've made mistakes in the past by remaining silent, but I'm trying to make things right. Lily deserves to know that her family also loves her and not like Rebecca." I pondered her words. "Grace, I appreciate your honesty. However, understand this. Lily's well-being comes first. If I allow you into her life, it will be on my terms and under my supervision. One incorrect move, one hint that you are not completely truthful and you're out for good. Are we clear?" Grace nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. Thank you, Alex. I will not let you down." As she left, I felt a mixture of hope and trepidation. Only time would tell if I had made the right decision. but I was willing to give it a shot for Lily. The following few weeks were a whirlwind of legal and financial maneuvering, with Rebecca and Dylan's empires crumbling. Vultures were circling looking to pick up the pieces, but thanks to Evelyn's expert advice, we were able to protect Lily's rights and secure her future. One evening, while I was reviewing some documents in my study, Nathan rocked by unexpectedly. "Ethan," he spoke with unusual hesitancy, "I have a proposition for you." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh," Nathan leaned forwards. "I am expanding my security consulting firm. After seeing how you handled the whole situation, I believe you'd be an asset. What say you want to put your newfound skills to use?" I was taken aback. It was an enticing offer, a chance to help others who may be in situations similar to mine. But as I opened my mouth to respond, I noticed a photograph on my desk. Lily and I are at the park, both laughing. "I am honored, Nathan," I replied slowly, "but I believe my place is here with Lily. She requires stability now more than ever, and I must focus on rebuilding my architectural career." Nathan nodded with a slight smile on his face. "I expected you to say that, but the offer is still valid if you change your mind later." As he left, I returned to the window and looked out over the city. So much had changed in such a short time, but one thing remained constant: my love for Lily and my determination to provide her with the life she deserves. The following week brought word that Rebecca and Dylan's trials were about to begin. Evelyn called to inform me of the latest developments. "Ethan," she said, her voice dense with excitement, "you will not believe this. We receive new evidence almost daily. Former associates of Dylan's, Rebecca attempted to manipulate throughout the years. They're all coming forward." Now that the threat has passed, I leaned back in my chair processing the information. "How does this affect the trials?" "It means they're leading for a very long time." Evelyn replied that the prosecution is assembling an impenetrable case. There is no wiggle room and no deals to be made. They're going down hard. As I hung up, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I had not realized I was carrying. Rebecca and Dylan would face justice, not only for what they had done to me and Lily, but for all the lives they had destroyed over the years. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes that never failed to make my heart melt. "Daddy," she said softly, "are you happy right now?" I paused to carefully consider her question. "You know what sweethearts I am, because you're all I need to be happy." She smiled and snuggled deeper into her covers. "I'm happy too, Daddy. I love you. I love you, Princess," I whispered, kissing her forehead. "Sweet dreams." As I closed her door, I realized that, despite the pain and betrayal, I had emerged stronger, wiser and more appreciative of what was truly important in life. The future, which had previously appeared bleak, now held endless possibilities, and I was ready to embrace them all with Lily by my side. The sun shone through the windows of my drafting room, illuminating the blueprints spread out on my desk. I stood back and examined the design critically. This home would be more than just a project. It represented our fresh start, a physical manifestation of the new life Lily and I were creating together. "What are your thoughts, sweetie?" I inquired, turning to Lily, who sat nearby coloring. Happily, she looked up, her face brightening. "It's beautiful, Daddy. Can my room have a large window like that?" I chuckled and moved over to ruffle her hair. "Of course it can. This is our home and we will make it just the way we want it." As I returned to the blueprints, the doorbell rang. Lily jumped up. "I will get it. Remember to verify who it is first," I called after her, a habit developed as a result of the turbulent months preceding its end. "Evelyn." Lily's voice rang out. I smiled as I approached the front door, where Evelyn stood looking as polished as ever, but with a warmth in her eyes that had grown accustomed to our shared ordeal. "Evelyn, come inside," I greeted her. "What brings you here?" She held up a file. Good news. I actually wanted to deliver this in person. We settled into the living room, with Lily returning to her coloring nearby. So what is the good news? I asked, taking the file from her. Evelyn's smile was triumphant. Rebecca and Dylan's final appeals have been denied. It's over. Ethan, really truly over. I let out a long breath. I'm feeling the tension. I didn't realize I was carrying release. That's good news. Thank you, Evelyn. For everything. She brushed off my thanks. It has been my pleasure. Alex, you and Lily deserve this peace. We talked for a while longer, discussing the nuances of the legal aftermath. Evelyn paused before reading her expression. Serious. Ethan, I know we started out as lawyer and client, but I want you to know that I now consider you a friend. If you or Lily ever need anything, I'm here. I nodded. Her sincerity moved me. Thank you, Evelyn. The feeling is mutual. After she left, I went back to my blueprints. My thoughts were clearer than they had been in months. The house I was designing was more than just a frame of wood and stone. Lily saw it as a safe haven and a place of love, a place where we could finally heal and thrive. The following few weeks flew by in a blur of activity. When construction on our new home began, Lily jumped right in, offering her opinions on everything from paint colors to furniture placement. One sunny afternoon, we stood on the partially built second floor, overlooking what would become our backyard. Lily tugged at my hand. Daddy, she spoke seriously, could we have a treehouse? I looked down and saw hope in her eyes. I think we can manage a treehouse house. In fact, I kneeled down to her level. Why don't you help me design it? Her face lit up with excitement. Really, can I? Of course, I replied, taking out my sketchbook. Let us begin planning right now. We sat there, heads bent over the pad, sketching her dream treehouse. I felt a warmth spread across my chest. This was what I'd fought so hard for, these simple yet precious moments with my daughter. My phone buzzed, interrupting our planning session. I looked at the screen and was surprised to see Darcy's name. Lily, why don't you continue working on the treehouse design? I need to take this call, I said, stepping back. Hello, Darcy, I responded, curious about what Dylan's ex-wife might want. Ethan. Her voice was hesitant yet determined. I hope I am not bothering you. I would like to thank you. I frowned, confused. Thank you for what? For giving me the courage to confront Dylan. She responded, I see you fighting so hard for your daughter. It made me realize that I too could be strong. I am currently rebuilding my life. I owe a lot of it to you. Her words took me off guard. I had been so focused on my own battle, I had not considered the possible consequences. I am glad you are doing well, Darcy. I spoke sincerely. You deserve better than what Dylan put you through. We spoke for a few more minutes. Darcy shared her future plans. As I hung up, I felt a sense of satisfaction. Despite the pain and betrayal, something good happened. Weeks passed and our new home was nearing completion. Lily's excitement increased with each passing day. Her fortitude in the face of everything we've gone through never ceases to amaze me. On the day we were supposed to move in, I got up early. As I sipped my coffee, I felt a mix of anticipation and nostalgia in my chest. Looking around our old house one final time, I realized how far we'd come. Lily bounded down the stairs, her eyes bright. Is it time, Daddy? Can we go to our new home now? I chuckled while ruffling her hair. Almost, sweetheart. We just have to wait for Uncle Nathan and Aunt Evelyn to arrive. They will assist us with our relocation. Remember, as if, on cue, a knock on the door. Nathan and Evelyn stood there grinning broadly. Are you ready to start your new life? Alex, Nathan asked. Clapping my shoulder, I nodded and felt a lump form in my throat. More than ready, The relocation went smoothly. We are grateful for our friends' help. As evening fell, Lily explored every nook and cranny of her new room. While I stood on the back porch, overlooking our new backyard, Evelyn joined me and handed me a glass of wine. "You did it, Alex. You won." I took a sip. While considering her words, it was not about winning. Not really. It was about keeping Lily safe and giving her the life she deserved. Evelyn nodded with understanding in her eyes. "And you've accomplished that. You should feel proud." As the song said, casting a warm glow over our new home, I summoned everyone together: Lily, Nathan, Evelyn, and even Grace, who had slowly become a part of our lives, gathered on the porch. I raised my glass to a new beginning. We choose to join the family. As we toasted, I looked around. My daughter was beaming with joy. My friends who had supported me through the darkest times. Even Grace is looking for redemption. This was my family now. Later that night, after everyone had left and Lily had settled into her new bed, I stood in my room and looked out the window. The stars appeared brighter. Here, away from the city lights, I thought about Rebecca and Dylan, who were imprisoned. I didn't feel angry anymore, no desire for more vengeance. They had made their choices and were now facing the consequences. My efforts were better spent on the future, Lily's future. I turned away from the window. My gaze fell on a framed photo on my nightstand. It was a new one, taken only last week. Lily and I laughed as we painted her new room. Our faces were smudged with color, but our joy was clear. This was what mattered. This was what I'd fought for. And as I climbed into bed listening to the quiet sounds of our new home settling around us, I knew we'd face whatever challenges awaited us together. The journey had been long and painful, but it had brought us to a place of peace, hope, and new beginnings, and I was grateful. As I fell asleep, I smiled. Tomorrow was a new day. This is only the beginning of our new life, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen. Here is the next story. My wife and I have been married for 2 years and together for 6. There were no children. When we met at the age of 17 and I was 22, she lost her virginity to me. Still learning that she had been involved with 2 additional men for the first time in our marriage over the holidays completely broke my heart. After the secrets were revealed, she fled and is still chasing me. They blamed everything on me. I played the victim. I was very abrasive last year after quitting my job and becoming a full-time landlord through her real estate endeavors. Making such significant changes in our lives was a difficult and stressful year, and she abandoned me once I had established myself. She tried to escape before the secrets were revealed, but I made it difficult by fighting and loving her. Everyone knows about the affair, so she is using shame to stay where she is, and she believes God is telling her to leave the marriage a lie. I'm trying not to communicate with her, but she'll send me random messages every now and then, which I believe are to ensure that I'm still on the hook, because she's testing the single life by having me present as a safety net. I had already filed for divorce because I was tired of being in limbo waiting for her to return home, being manipulated and sexually abused. We have increased our net worth to 30,000 over the last 2 years while married, and she only wants 1.0. There is no full 50-50 split state. I'm attempting to cope, deal, and accept everything that has occurred. I'm hurting, depressed, no motivation. I want it to end, but I also want to save it, even though I might not have a chance. Many people are screaming at me to leave because she's essentially giving me a free pass to get out of the marriage without being financially ruined. She's always been a sweeter and more religious person than I am, so it pains me to see her causing spiritual harm to herself. But I'm also harming myself by being so vulnerable after the neglect, abandonment, degrading, and disrespect she's shown me. She has made no efforts to save the marriage but sends out random, stupid, meaningless messages. I'm just having trouble picturing life without her, and I always see forever and mother to our future children still works at the fair where our partner works. I'm pretty sure she's still uncommitted to that relationship, which is why she won't come home to try to save the marriage. Still sends messages like, "I love you and miss you so much. I apologize for putting you through this. God is telling me things and I am completely lost and confused." As the day draws closer, April 25th marks the end of my 60-day cooling-off period to contact the courts and schedule the hearing. There were no lawyers involved. She has been very civil with me, but I miss her. I wish she was home. Are you worried about what will happen if she runs back because she is afraid of the deadline? Where do I draw the line in the sand and say it's enough? I have trouble remembering what we had, and I will never find anyone as good as her. Here's what someone in the community had to say. You draw a line in the sand. She previously admitted to having slept with other men. There's no way she'll suddenly come to her senses. You are waiting for one of two outcomes. That relationship ends because her partner is done with her, usually because they got what they wanted, or concerned about the job. Do not want to mess with someone going through divorce, or the wayward spouse is pushing too hard, too fast with their minds. That relationship must work because marriage has been destroyed. In any case, we were running back to you as spouses. Broken wasn't her choice. Are you now, for the rest of your life, a backup for her? Or a long time later, when she realizes that the entire affair and feelings were a lie, all of the butterflies and excitement have vanished and the relationship has no substance? By this point, you will be emotionally bankrupt. Your whole perception of her will shift. You'll be done. Let's get this straight. She's not coming home to you. She continues to work with the repaired partner and has made no other efforts to save the marriage, all while allowing you to leave and save what little pride you have left. Run for the hills, man, in case you didn't know. She does not love you. She does not miss you, and she's not sorry. Please update now. Officially divorce progress. I'm back with an update. Some of you may remember my situation in which my now ex-wife was a unicorn, one in every one. 0 if we got divorced. The original post can be viewed here. I filed for divorce in late February. There is no fault in the state in which I live. Unless we agree otherwise, the split will be 50-50. There is also a 60-day waiting period before moving forward. She returned home to try and reconcile. Near the end of the waiting period, my poor heart of course entertained the thought, and she had been home for about 2 months and nothing was the same. She was also willing to sign a post-nuptial agreement if we remained married. Aside from the materials and assets, I couldn't deal with the emotional pain or heartbreak, so I went ahead with the final hearing out of self-respect, which was the most difficult decision I've ever made in my life. Last week we went to the courthouse together to finalize. We didn't hire any lawyers and she stayed true for the last 6 months, asking for only 1.0. So I told the judge I'd give her 15.0. We are now officially divorced and she lives in an apartment. While I walked away with 6 real estate properties, she said I had already messed up emotionally. I do not want to cause financial problems for you. We are civil and still in love. She's a good person who made absolutely horrible decisions. In reality, admits it and accepts full responsibility. Rather than blaming me, I still wonder if I made the right decision every day, but I now feel more at ease and in control of my life. The community reacted, "Man, you did well. If you only had to pay 1.0 anyway. Good for you for going through with the divorce." Despite her attempts to reconcile at the end, especially since you admit you still love each other, we can argue about whether she's a good person, because she used to play the victim a lot, but she appears to have improved from her previous self. I would advise you, for your own sake, if you have no reason to remain civil with her children, to simply start over and not have her in your life at all. She will push to get you back at some point and you will need to remember everything. Finally, you can heal yourself, though it may be difficult. You have the means to break free from her. You should. As for regret, I believe you will find it. There are few of us who regret leaving and many of us who regret staying. I've already hurt you emotionally. I do not want to cause financial problems for you. How thoughtful and considerate of her not. How can you love someone who has cheated on? You are living in a fantasy world on Delusional Street. What are your thoughts? Our next destination has been living a lie for the past 3 years. Am I the a-hole for starting the divorce process? After discovering my daughter isn't mine. My life feels like a bad drama show right now. For context, my wife 30 and I 303 have been married for 7 years, and what I thought was our daughter is now 3 years old. Looking back, it all began when my wife gave birth to. Her daughter suddenly became much more affectionate and active with me in the bedroom life. She also made my favorite desserts more frequently. She is a fantastic baker. Of course, I didn't suspect anything because there were no signs of cheating prior to her pregnancy. But it's also possible that I didn't look closely enough. This whole fiasco began 2 weeks ago after a day out with her daughter, and she simply sat me down in the evening and admitted that her water was not mine. Her waterworks, of course, began, and it appeared to be a guy from the gym who lasted a month before disappearing on her after he discovered she was pregnant. Even typing this now makes me want to cry, because I thought I did everything perfectly, but she continued to cheat. I wish I could say I had a stone face. I began crying and she attempted to console me, but I pushed her away. I was so disgusted with her. After I had calmed down, I grabbed my jacket and left for the hotel, and as I was leaving, she begged and pleaded with me to forgive her. Then I became the only father her daughter knew. After crying myself to sleep in the hotel the next day, I turned back on my phone. I saw she had blown up my phone, but I didn't read it. I just blocked her. After eating some breakfast, I contacted a lawyer to begin the divorce process, and at work I simply asked for some time off and my boss granted me a month by the evening. My mother and sister had called me on her behalf and were on her side. That only made things worse. I'm not proud to admit this. I drank myself to sleep that night. After that night, I started staying with my best friend, while my mother and sister kept spamming and calling me. A few days later, she most likely received the divorce papers. My mother just texted me a long message saying that I should forgive her and not abandon my daughter, and that she would disown me if I went through with the divorce. My sister and mother opposed my divorce, but my best friend and his wife argued that I have the right to refuse to be with her or care for her child. I'm divided on this. On the one hand, I raised the baby for 3 years. On the other hand, I'm not sure I could in good conscience raise the rest of my wife. She had an affair. I don't want to provide some context. My sister is infertile, so I believe that is part of the reason my mother does not want me to continue the divorce, as she will lose her grandchild. I thought of the community. You're not wrong, AP. She only ended the affair because he split after learning she was pregnant, and after a month she was sleeping with him without protection. I smell BS. What would she have done if he'd accepted responsibility for the child? Most likely run off with the gym guy. You are her backup after he had left her. I'm sorry that this happened to you. You can still be present in the child's life, but I would seek therapy before making any other decisions. But the divorce is completely justified, not the whole. It sounds like your ex knew exactly what she was doing after discovering she was pregnant. No, she jumped on you and attempted to make a move so you wouldn't notice. Meanwhile, she's already pregnant with someone else's child. The comment is correct. You weren't have always been the backup. Chances are. She's telling you that this child isn't yours because she's about to reveal she's pregnant again with someone else's child. You are not the here update. Hello everyone. First and foremost, please excuse any writing errors as I type this while high on emotion and drunk. Also, I'd like to thank everyone who has supported me, sent me nice messages and requested an update. After reading a lot of advice, I decided to meet my wife at a cafe today. My best friend and his wife were also there. Just in case she tried anything, I'll just keep it short. She tried to apologize, but I didn't want to hear it. Instead, I asked why she cheated and if she had already done a DNA test, as I suspected, and the reason she gave is the main reason. I'm drunk along with my best friend, his guest room. She cheated because the guy was attractive, but she made a mistake. Isn't that the witch gives someone everything you have and one attractive dude comes along and she right over and yes, she has already taken the DNA test and my daughter is not mine. I'm still going to get a DNA test for proof in court, as well as to make peace with it. I've also blocked my mother and sister, and I'll most likely pay my mother a visit in the coming weeks to express my feelings. That's pretty much it. My wife recently left a guy because he was attractive. Isn't that a witch? Sorry if this isn't the update you were looking for, but yeah. Also to everyone who is planning to encourage me to reconcile with her, go for yourself. Unless you know how I'm feeling at the moment, you do not take the moral high ground update. Hello everyone. I just wanted to update you on some events that occurred today, since many of you asked. First and foremost, I saw my daughter again because I needed to for the DNA testing to determine whether or not I could potentially raise her. And, to be honest, I may face a lot of backlash for this, but it just doesn't feel right. Just seeing her makes me feel overwhelmed with sadness. I just imagine a future in which my wife would not have cheated and I would not be in this mess. So I doubt I will make contact with her. As cruel as that sounds, but I believe it is better for both her and me, as I do not believe I would be a suitable father for her, as well as for my mental health. And now I must wait for the results of the DNA test. Another thing that has happened is that I will have no contact with my sister or my mother. I spoke with her again on the phone, and, as I suspected, it was a ruse, and she has promised to remain out of it for context. My mother has no family other than my uncle and she has been lonely since my father's death, so I believe she did not want to lose another member of her family. I've already told her I don't mind if she communicates with my wife and daughter as long as she keeps me out of it. However, I have maintained no contact because she has caused me significant harm by signing with my ex, even if only for a short period of time. My sister insisted on the issue, so I blocked her. I just wanted to thank everyone for their kind comments and messages, and I apologize if this is not what you expected to read. I'm not sure if I'll update again, because I doubt anything interesting will happen. So she'll just cheat on you with the next person she finds attractive. Talk about having no self-control. She forced you to lie for 3 years, possibly longer. You're not mistaken here. You have every right to feel the way you do. It is best for you to have little or no contact with your mother and sister. It's sick that they can't see past your ex's manipulation and accept your perspective. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.